Something fishy is going on with my SIL pregnancy after I caught her in a lie. I, 22 female, have an older brother, John, 32 male, who has been with his fiancée, Jane, 30 female, for 4 years. They have a 4-month-old. Jane found out she was pregnant at 5.5 weeks, and immediately called my mum to tell her. Mum was confused, but still very excited. Jane said she was going to tell John when he got back from his work trip. A few hours later she called again, sobbing, saying she has insatiable cravings. Mum made a joke like, "Isn't it a bit early for cravings?" and Jane went off on her. She started yelling about how this was her pregnancy and no one else's. It was an odd reaction. She also apologized for her outburst by blaming it on hormones. When my brother returned from his trip, him and Jane left to stay at her mother's and we didn't see her until after the baby was born. John said this was because Jane was afraid of losing the pregnancy and wanted to be with her mum, and we needed to respect boundaries. Whenever someone would ask about Jane or the baby, they would shut it down with vague answers like, "Every pregnancy is different," or "She's carrying small," which isn't unusual. They barely shared anything about the pregnancy. No ultrasound pictures, no baby shower, and Jane didn't want anyone around during the delivery. I also discovered that every craving she listed came from one article about pregnancy cravings. She even listed multiple items in the same order as the article. When the baby was born, we were finally allowed to see Jane and John, and baby of course. It was very bittersweet, as we all wished we could have been there for Jane to help out. But Jane and John both reassured us that we did help out by staying away during the pregnancy. The weirdest part though, is how Jane describes the birth. She claims she had an epidural via IV drip into her hand. Edited BC. I didn't elaborate, which is not how those are administered. When I asked clarifying questions, thinking she had gotten confused, which is understandable, she shut down and refused to answer, like how she would during the pregnancy. She said the baby had latching issues, because he was born with no umbilical cord stump. This can technically happen, but it's a rare and fatal medical condition that their baby does not have. The final straw was when she told us that the baby basically fell out of her within an hour of being in labor, despite my brother telling us how hard the birth was, and even stating that was why they weren't going to try for any more kids. Mum is on the same side as me, and has been noting this inconsistencies and inaccuracies, but doesn't know how to bring it up, and their reactions don't help. A few days ago my brother texted Mum saying her doubt of Jane is disrespectful, and they both want full apologies from the both of us for bullying Jane about her pregnancy labor. I haven't made any outright accusations about it, nor have I said any of this to Jane. I've only asked questions when she brings the birth pregnancy up. Update 24 days later. Well, I was right to have questions. After I made my post I stopped talking to my mum about the pregnancy, but things still didn't add up. Fast forward to my brother's birthday, and the whole family was over at Mum's. Our aunts, uncles, cousins and older brother were all guests during the party. Jane mentioned how the baby had BSA, and our aunt called her out on it. She's a maternity nurse. It caused a huge argument where Jane and John left in a rage. But it turns out that Jane didn't give birth. The baby is actually a product of my brother's affair. He had been cheating on Jane with some woman for about 6 months before she got pregnant. Apparently Jane and John offered her a lump sum of £25,000 for her to allow them to adopt the baby when it was born, and to never interact with the baby or their family ever again. They didn't want this cheating to be found out, so they pretended Jane was pregnant and moved away. Jane's mum was in on the whole thing. The kicker? This all came out because the woman John had the affair with decided she wanted her baby back. Apparently she hadn't been fully informed about the agreement's legal implications, and she felt pressured to sign it in the first place. She also barely speaks English and the contract was all English. She's now pursuing legal action against Jane and John to get full custody of the baby. She said she waited this long because she was afraid of her immigrant status getting in the way. All their closed-off answers and refusal to engage was because they were afraid of this coming out. Apparently Jane was terrified of someone noticing the baby's eyes green. John and Jane both have blue eyes, but Lucy has green eyes. Things have gone to absolute shit. The whole situation is bigger than anything I could have imagined. I won't be updating unless something else crazy happens. I don't know if this was a sign to keep trusting my gut, but damn. I'll be logging off in a few hours. Thanks to everyone. Relevant comments. You need to get you Sil out of that toxic relationship ASAP. Help that girl wake up. They both orchestrated taking advantage of the woman. They're made for each other. Commenter 2. Why didn't they just say they will adopt a baby? Well, that's what they did under the guise of tricking the woman. I don't know what the contract said exactly, but from what I know, my brother told her she'd be able to see the baby, but the contract said that by taking the £25,000, she'd never see her baby or my brother, his extended family, ever again. I feel awful for her, and I hope she can recover and get her baby back. Commenter 3. Yikes. I hope that poor woman gets her baby back. In the US at least, there's a visa for people who report a crime and cooperate with prosecuting the perpetrator. It's frequently used for domestic violence. We don't know the details and whether they can be charged with a crime given the contract. Maybe something like criminal coercion? In any case, I hope mama and baby are reunited and thrive together. Sorry you have to deal with the family mess up. We're in the UK where paid surrogacy is illegal unless it's for reasonable expenses. For example, Buying your surrogacy maternity clothes is legal, paying them a lump sum of £25,000 is not. That's not even getting into the fact that they tricked her and didn't even attempt to provide a translator, a contract in her language, anything.